Good morning and a very warm welcome to KTN News Center. This morning we are keeping focus on different stories that are making the headlines here in Kenya. Of course, we're still following up on that developing story in Likoni in Mombasa County when it comes to the recovery mission of the two bodies and the vehicle. And this is a story that our reporter Tobias Chanji is clearly following up for us. My name is Brenda Zedaradido. Welcome to the program. Let's begin this morning with a top story where 13 people have died and several others injured in a road accident at AWASI along the Kisumu-Kericho highway. The accident is said to have occurred at around 1:30 a.m. when the bus heading to Nairobi collided head-on with a truck heading to Kisumu. The driver of the truck is among the dead. Nyanza Police Boss Dr. Vincent Makoha, who was at the scene of the accident, said the injured were rushed to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital in Kisumu. Hello. Now, the Ministry of Education has closed down Starehe Girls' School following an outbreak of a mysterious disease. The Center for Disease Control conducted at least 3 tests for influenza, whooping cough and rhinovirus, and all tests turned negative. By the time of the closure, the number of affected students had risen from 52 to 84. The learners were allowed to go home and resume classes on Monday 7th. Mary Mwoki with that report.
This disturbing cough caused panic among students and parents of Starehe Girls Center. One by one, the students left the school accompanied by parents with worry written on their faces. Sources say the outbreak began with a Form 1 student and rapidly spread to over 80 by the time the school was closed down on Thursday morning. Parents and guardians blamed the institution for their handling of the situation. With scanty information on the cause of the outbreak, some parents expressed fear that the students may infect their siblings at home with this strange flu.
They are telling us is purely psychological. Yeah? And even if it's psychological, where would you get that energy to cough hysterically like that?
Sawa, tumekujia watoto, kuna outbreak ya flu nini, but we have kids at home. How safe? Watoto wetu watakuwa safe aje? Hatujapewa direction yote tuwapeleke hospitali ama nini. Tuwachukue tuwapeleke tu nyumbani waende kusambazia wale wengine.
The Ministry of Health and the Center for Disease Control say they took samples from 12 of the 80 affected students for testing at the Kenya Medical Research Institute, Cambridge. The tests include influenza, whooping cough, and rhinovirus. The tests came back negative for any highly contagious and deadly disease. However, ministry officials recommended temporary closure of the school to allow the girls to get psychosocial support and personal interventions from their different homes. Other sources told KTN News that the students could have suffered from mass anxiety causing hysteria. That is, however, yet to be confirmed. Mary Mwoki, KTN News.
Now, it is still unclear of how many people were in a two-story building under construction that collapsed at BRUTALITY market in Kakamega. But police insist only one construction worker died and scores injured. More families have called on the government to complete the process of debris removal as they are yet to find the relatives who called for help through their mobile phones. Willie Lusige has the latest from Kakamega.
Local residents flocked the scene to try the little they could do to rescue those still trapped under the building. It took the whole day for villagers, emergency workers and personnel from the county's fire department to remove the debris of the two-story building under construction that collapsed at BRUTALITY.
Hao watu mafundi wenye walipika manduru wenye walikuwa jini wanapikia wenye wanatoka juu wanaanguka. Sasa mimi kutoka hapa mbio kwenda hapo kakuta ghorofa imeanguka.
The initial plan by the owner of this building indicated that he was in the process of constructing a water tank. On the ground, things were different. He was constructing a two-story building to be used as a private hospital.
Plan ambayo alikuwa amepewa ilikuwa ya kujenga tangi. Haikuwa plan ya kujenga nyumba. Na kuna records hapa za kuonyesha kwamba alisimamishwa tarehe 3 September.
Even after the county government officials stopped the construction after they found out it wasn't in line with the initial plan, the owner of the building continued with the construction, only to collapse early Thursday.
Nilikuwa na shida kidogo. Hata ukitembea ulikuwa unasikia tu kinguruma huko chini.
Police have launched a manhunt for the developer who disappeared immediately after the tragedy struck.
Yeye mwenyewe ajisalimishe kwa wapi? Kwa polisi.
Other families continue to come at this site, demanding to know the whereabouts of their relatives who are yet to be found. Residents and workers at the site had warned authorities after noticing some weaknesses in the structure.
Especially tukilaumu watu wa NCA, ofisi ya Kakamega. Juzi nimekuwa hapo, nikawaelezea kazi inayoendelea hapo ni mbovu, nikawapigia simu, wakakuja, kazi yao ni kuchukua pesa na kwenda.
Na huyu mama ilikuwa inasemekana alikuwa ameleta chakula. Sasa saa hii mchanga imetolewa na tuchaona huyo mama. Huyo mama simu yake ilifika mahali ikasima.
Willie Lusige, KTN News, BRUTALITY, Malawi.
Now, it is 5 days since the tragic incident in which a car carrying a mother and her daughter plunged into the Indian Ocean. Sadly, operations to recover the bodies and the vehicle were even slower yesterday due to the heavy rains that pound Mombasa. Even the private divers who joined the search with the Kenyan Navy pulled out of the operation. And as our coast-based reporter Tobias Chanji tells us, the government is now enrolling the help of other foreign divers to the operation at the Likoni Ferry crossing.
Activities seem to be slow compared to Wednesday, even as the Navy divers on rescue boats were seen moving across the channel. It was also a lucky day for ferry users as there were no any interruptions, but hope to get the bodies dimmed after the withdrawal of private divers and the heavy downpour. But the government maintains that their hope is not lost.
But the robot or the cameras that are mounted on the aircraft will not tell you that this is a car or this is a mass of some mud. So somebody therefore has to go in and confirm. And they were able to do that yesterday, and they managed 6 different locations, and all of them returned negative. So what are we saying? That even anybody coming in here will have to go through the same process, because if a camera cannot see, human beings cannot be able to see either, because of the darkness and the nature of the water that we are dealing with today.
Oguna said the government is ready to bring anyone on board the search as long as they will work under the Kenya Navy.
Huu mkasa tunahitaji mbinu zote zije kwa pamoja, serikali imeleta taasisi zote ambazo zinahusika, ambazo mpaka sasa tunaendelea na shughuli hii ya kutafuta gari. Iwapo kutakuwa na taasisi nyingine ama usaidizi nyingine kutoka kwa familia, hatutawazuia kufika, lakini wakifika lazima fanye kazi kwa utaratibu ambao uko chini ya Kenya Navy.
But as this was happening, another expert from Sweden surfaced. Volker Bassen is a veteran scuba diver and a renowned Swedish whale shark expert who has volunteered to explore the Likoni Ferry waters to try and retrieve bodies.
So we will use shark shields, which is an electrical device that kind of stands the ampullae of Lorenzini, which is a shark electric sensing organ that sharks have. And that's the only way that you will be able to recover the bodies. So you combine it with special gases, such as nitrox, which we have in the country, and modern technology against shark attacks, basically. So it's quite straightforward. No problem at all.
Yeah. Bassen is expected to join the search party on Friday. Tobias Chanji, KTN News, Mombasa County.
Now, still on the same story, Malindi Member of Parliament Aisha Jumwa has challenged President Uhuru Kenyatta to command the Kenya Navy to join the ferry tragedy rescue efforts or reconsider the Mashujaa Day fete set to happen in Mombasa this year.
Aibu kubwa sana ikiwa sherehe za tarehe 20 za Mashujaa Day, rais wa jamhuri yetu ya Kenya atatolewa Nairobi aje Mombasa kusherehekea sherehe ya Mashujaa Day ambao ni some meters pale ambapo ile ajali imefanyika. Sioni kama hiyo pia it will give our president a peace of mind to celebrate. Mr. President, there is nothing to celebrate. Sisi kama kina mama wa nchi hii, mimi kama mama wa nchi hii, na kuambia my president, kindly reconsider hiyo issue ya kwamba you are coming to Mombasa to celebrate Mashujaa Day, na mmoja wetu sisi kama kina mama ndani ya Mombasa ako futi 60 pamoja na mtoto. Ni jambo la kusikitisha. Mimi naomba rais wa jamhuri ya Kenya, ikiwa wewe ndio commander in chief of the armed forces of the Republic of Kenya, the Kenya Navy has...
Now, a woman in Nakuru is nursing serious burn wounds after she was allegedly scalded by her husband. 26-year-old Lucy Nyira, who is a mother of 3, says her husband dosed her body with petrol before setting her ablaze. Lucy sustained 25% burns. Nurses at the Nakuru Level 5 hospital say she's out of danger. Her husband Bernard has since been arrested, and according to police, he will be charged with attempted murder. Alan Ochanda has the story.
Lucy can't move on her own. She has been immobilized. She is in great pain. The pain brought to her by someone who should have otherwise brought her joy, her husband. He allegedly could not hold his anger and poured petrol on her before setting her ablaze after Lucy allegedly came back home late.
Mimi nilikuwa nimekaa kwa neighbor, akakuja saa 3:30 akaniita, nikaenda. Jumangoni nilikuwa nimeweka huko. Sasa ile niliingia kwa nyumba, akanigonga kofi moja, akaniambia endea manguo. Mimi nikaendea. Kupeleka kwa nyumba, akaanza kunichapa. Akanichapa. Mwishowe mafuta sijui ilikuwa wapi. Nikasikia tu mafuta imenimwagikia kwa macho. Akanimwagilia kwa macho. Sasa macho nikaona kama yoni tena. Sasa mimi kusema nduru, na akaitwa na majirani huko, akafunga mlango na ndani.
The suspect was been identified by the police as Bernard Kariha, a motorcycle mechanic. He has been termed as a perennial wife batterer. Lucy's mother, Teresia Waithera, intimating to us she has on several occasions prevailed on her daughter to leave her marriage, which has in the end turned tragic.
Mimi nataka akae huko jela. Silikuwa nataka kumua, si unasikia amesema amemwagilia mafuta huko kwote, mwili yote alikuwa nataka akufe. Tafadhali yeye akae huko, hata kama asikie venye mtoto yangu anasikia.
These nurses' efforts now the only hope for Lucy, the lead nurse in the serious burns ward, Jennifer Madhenge, assuring of her safety.
We gave a lot of IV fluids to sustain the rehydration, and we feel we have done the best, and we are doing the best. So we pray God that she comes out well.
Alan Ochamna, KTN News.
To some politics now, a section of ODM party leaders have condemned ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi over claims he made in New Jersey that President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga agreed to bury the differences for the sake of their personal interests. Mudavadi claims that President Kenyatta, opposition chief Raila Odinga, and their close family members risked being denied visas if they failed to work together.
Visas were being cancelled. So what gave birth to the handshake, in my view, was actually more of personal survival rather than patriotism.
The same Mudavadi told us that he was not aware of the events around the handshake. Why has he now come up with a new version that the handshake was forced on Raila and Uhuru by the international community? I want to say that kind of dishonesty, I do not want to be associated with it, even though I'm a member of ANC.
It is in fact Musalia and his colleagues who succumbed to international pressure not to participate in the swearing in. These are individuals who would readily sacrifice the will and the desire of their own people in order to please them.
All right, so that is a developing story in politics, caused a lot of political reactions, especially from leaders of the ODM party. Let's now get the mind of a governance expert, that is Jeffers Bigambo, joining us via way of phone. Bigambo, thank you so much for talking to us here on KTN News Center. First things first, why is Mudavadi making that statement a year after the handshake?
First, what's even more interesting is that this statement by the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi is being made in a foreign land. And the question arises that why is it that, for instance, this statement by Honorable Mudavadi could not be made or asserted here when he was here and speaking to Kenyans? And the other thing is also the timing of this statement. Thirdly is that he's speaking to Kenyans in the diaspora, not majoritarians. And one wonders, for example, what is the weight or significance of that statement to Kenyans in the diaspora and not speaking to Kenyans, for example, and members of his party here in Kenya? Well, basically, when you look at Musalia Mudavadi and his politics, in the recent times, when you just try to look at the journal of his political activities in the past couple of months, is that he's trying to fashion himself as a new kind of political spirit in the opposition and trying to emerge as a crusading liberal who stands on his own 2 feet and speaks his mind. Remember that he has always had this tag that he's timid and that he always lurks in the shadows, awaiting the blessings or the support of other major politicians. Now, analyzing his statement at the Muungano SDA Church in New Jersey and how it has attracted an avalanche of attacks and responses, one from especially ODM and then even a few members of his party, it tells you that maybe there is a spirit of, or the lack of consultation and harmonizing of the political thought within the members of the NASA fraternity. Now, each coalition, as it is with each epoch, has got its own soul. But now we know that when a soul dies, the entire thing is dead. This spat of conflicts between ODM and ANC politicians, and looking, for example, at how heavily worded the statement by ANC that was released by Barack Muluka, it tells you that now these two coalition party members or former coalition party members are going for each other's jugular. for each other's jugular. And
Mr. Bigambo, let me just cut you short. You're talking about, MUDAVADI saying that statement because he wants to become the new political spirit in the opposition. But as we speak, there's no opposition because, NASA is totally dead.
Well, you see, they have been trying to negate every kind of evidence to demonstrate that NASA is dead. But now, far from the statements they have been releasing, their actions speak very differently. There is limited respect, if any, that ODM has demonstrated or is demonstrating for Musalia Mudavadi, looking at how they have branded him and castigated him by his going by the recent remarks in New Jersey, looking at also how Barack Muluka and the ANC party leadership has elected to stand by the statements by their party leader. And actually, their statement reads that they affirm the veracity of Mudavadi's sentiments. Then it also, and the way they have actually, when you look at the concluding parts of that statement, the presser, they have got limited respect, if any, for Raila Odinga and even ODM. So it tells you that they are keen to dress down each other and affirming even further by way of now their actions that NASA is dead. Remember that NASA is Musalia Mudavadi's brainchild, but now it brought on board the other political parties for purposes of the elections in 2017.
Right.
Now, when you now look at the kind of politics Musalia Mudavadi has been playing, he has even said on record that because there is no functional opposition, he is rising to be that voice, that alternative voice for the people, which means that he's trying to brand himself as the opposition leader or the opposition voice.
So Bigambo, is Mudavadi playing a politics of relevance?
Well, Musalia Mudavadi is trying to, one, hit the headlines, two, position himself, rebrand or recalibrate his politics. Remember that whether it was in 2013 and even 17, there's this growing and sustained assumption that he is the safe pair of hands. The kind of safe politics he has been playing for too long has not paid enormous dividends for him. And Musalia Mudavadi, as is always been known to be, would not make such kind of controversial statements. But now we are seeing a Musalia Mudavadi who is trying to be a new kind and attracting these kinds of controversy. And that's why initially I said he's trying to get out of the shadows, try and stand on his own 2 feet and try to be his own voice, or a man that can be heard speaking for himself and determined to say whatever he wants to say or take whatever direction he wants to take. And that's now the kind of Musalia Mudavadi, I think, that is trying to rebrand.
Right. All right. Let's talk about now, his statement towards, after President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga had the handshake on the doorsteps of the Harambee office of the president. And he came out, together with Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper Party and his other counterpart. And he said that they didn't know about the handshake. They didn't have any information. They got to know it through the media. But then a year later, he comes to say the handshake was because of visa denial. So where does Mudavadi stand when it comes to the political truth?
Well, there is a bit of flip-flopping there on his part. And look, for instance, he affirmed that he was in the dark together with his allies in the NASA, that they were in the dark on the issue of the handshake or the coming together of Uhuru and Raila. And even the other party members of ODM themselves have been technically in the dark and were in the dark concerning the same. So any emerging information about the handshake, etc., they could be picking up bits and pieces from various sources that are far spread. And so even Musalia Mudavadi's statement castigating Raila Odinga and the very soul of the handshake cannot be taken for the truth as it is, or just on the basis of Musalia Mudavadi's word. But what we know is that the foreign or the Western allies of Kenya were quite antithetical to Raila Odinga's purported swearing in or mock swearing in as the people's president. And Musalia Mudavadi himself has also now affirmed that the Western powers were threatening And of course, that's alleged, that they were threatening to cancel various visas for the opposition leaders and their families and kindred, etc. That statement cannot be affirmed. And Musalia Mudavadi, to be taken for the truth of his statement or the veracity of the same, should actually mention the sources of this information for the veracity sake.
All right, because it's very interesting that he's gone ahead, as much as he's alleging that it was about issues to do with visa, he's gone ahead and not to mention the countries. But away from that, let's talk about, you've mentioned something that Musalia Mudavadi also talked about. He says that that handshake was about self-interest and not patriotism. So are we looking at a situation whereby Musalia Mudavadi is not going to support the BBI report?
Well, nearly every politician, whether in Kenya, Africa, or around the world, is always sustained by the quest for self-preservation. So the issue of Raila Odinga as a politician has always been about self-preservation, which most of the time is in the guise of national interest. So it is even with Musalia Mudavadi. Because when you look at Musalia Mudavadi and how he's coined that statement, what interest is he furthering? The only thing here is that he wants to be seen as a relevant politician who is trying to position himself as an alternative significant voice. And remember that with the exit of Uhuru Kenyatta after 2021, or let me say 2022 elections, the battleground will be very open for whoever wants to contest the presidency. So it's a question of self-preservation, but now, even in that self-preservation, there's the issue of national interest that was at stake. And I think it is necessary for us to say that when Musalia Mudavadi says that Raila Odinga's handshake with Kenyatta was a question of purely self-preservation, but national interest was also at the hand of it. Issue of BBI now comes. You see, Musalia Mudavadi himself has been a bit coy on the issue of the referendum, has been very coy on the issue of Punguza Mzigo. And BBI is the brainchild of Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. If at all he comes out guns blazing, castigating the handshake or actually pouring cold water on it, then it may be a very slippery ground for Musalia Mudavadi to try and come out, if the BBI recommendations are out, to boldly again stand in favor or in support of the BBI recommendations, if at all the very essence of that BBI, which is the handshake, is something that he is pouring cold water on.
All right, thank you so much. Jevas Bigambo, governance expert, talking to us via way of phone, and it comes to the allegations by Musalia Mudavadi that the handshake between Raila Odinga, ODM party leader, and President Uhuru Kenyatta was not about patriotism, but matters of self-interest. Taking us to a fast commercial break here on KTN News Center. But we still have a lot lined up for you when we come back, so keep it KTN News.